Super Bowl 58 is set 13 days away from Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, and what's the team? The Kansas City Chiefs going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Chiefs beat the Ravens 17-10. The 49ers overcame a 24-7 halftime deficit, and they beat the Detroit Lions. So now you got to wonder about who's actually going to be back to this spot next year. Maybe the Ravens feel like they're likely to get back. Lamar Jackson did have a very good season. That defense is great. But on the other sideline, a team with Jared Goff as its quarterback, a team that has never been this far in the playoffs before. Hell, just the fact that they're the Lions, it does make you wonder if this is the furthest that the Lions ever will go. And in a moment of honesty after the game, Lions head coach Dan Campbell was asked about that possibility. Here's what he had to say.
It's a lesson learned. And look, I told those guys, this may have been our only shot. Do I think that? No. Do I believe that? No. However, I know how hard it is to get here. I'm well aware. And it's going to be twice as hard to get back to this point next year than it was this year. That's the reality. And if we don't have the same hunger and the same work, which is a whole nother thing, once we get the offseason, then we got no shot of getting back here. I don't care how much better we get or what we add or what we draft. It's irrelevant. It's going to be tough. Everybody in our division is going to be loaded back up, and, you're not hiding from anybody anymore. Everybody's going to want a piece of you, and which is fine, which is fine. But so it's hard. You want to make the most of every opportunity, and we had an opportunity, and we just couldn't close it out.
That perspective is the correct perspective, and it's the perspective that the Houston Texans better have. I think often when you see a young team make it to the playoffs for the first time and surprise a lot of people, you just assume that it's going to continue. But that very often in the NFL, which is at times just mean. Take a look at what happened to the Lions at the end of yesterday's game. I mean, for God's sakes, Brock Purdy threw another interception, and it should have been intercepted. It bounces off a Lion defender and into the hands of Brandon Ayuk, and they score a touchdown. But here are some teams that got close to making a Super Bowl, listed by Justin Spiro, and never got back, but everyone thought they were going to get back. The 2007 Chargers. The 2009 Jets. Have the Jets even made the playoffs since then? The 2009 Vikings. Oh, wait, the 2010 Jets. But that's the year after where they didn't make it. The 2010 Bears. The 2014 Colts. 2015 Cardinals. 2017 Jaguars. 2017 Vikings. The 2019 Titans. The Bills in 2020. The Packers in 2020. It's hard to get to this point. It's hard to get back. Unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And honestly, unless you're the San Francisco 49ers. You're getting a matchup of the two best teams. How did the Texans get back? I saw a comment. This is on our Twitch. The Texans have an elite quarterback and a rookie contract. Their run starts now. It's Super Bowl or bust in these next 3 years. I guess as far as signing people to big contracts and taking risks that you maybe won't be able to down the road, sure. But more than having that mindset of Super Bowl or bust, I know that DeMeco Ryans has a big challenge on his hand this offseason in getting these guys to realize how difficult it is to get to this moment. Because if you're any of those young Texans players, whether you're a rookie this past season like a CJ Stroud or a Tank Dell, or someone who was playing for a team that wasn't really efforting to compete the years before that. So that would be Derek Stingley, some of the other young players. You have to have somebody just almost slap you in the face with the tape of the Lions blowing that 24-7 lead and saying, there's a very good chance they're not going to be back. There's a very good chance you won't be back. the schedule that the Texans are going up against this coming season, the first place schedule, I mean, it's brutal. It's going to be hard. And they are going to lose games to teams that are on the same level as them. That's just how the NFL works. How many are they going to lose to teams that are on the same level as them? I mean, we know this year that they've lost a couple of games to teams that they were better than. And that was this year. The Jets, the Falcons, the Panthers. So what are the things, I guess, that they can take from just sitting back and watching these playoffs? And it seems like such a obvious thing, but every single year, when you see teams lose specifically to the Kansas City Chiefs, you realize it's not as simple as just don't screw up, but it really is as simple as don't screw up. I think one of the good things the Texans do have going forward is maybe not a quarterback that is of the caliber of Patrick Mahomes, who looked great on those first two drives and, of course, have that nice throw to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, but had some struggles in between there. And then Jackson made some splash plays as well, but in C.J. Stroud, to this point, you have a quarterback that does not make mistakes. Do I expect that going forward? I actually do. I think if we learned anything from C.J. Stroud this season is that he can make plays, but it doesn't have to come in a way where there's a risk of turnovers. You know, he's not going to be like Brett Favre, who was a great quarterback, but made tons and tons and tons and tons of mistakes over the course of his career. You have a guy who is closer to Brady on that front, closer to Mahomes on that front. And that is the biggest thing. Like the reason that Brady and Mahomes have as much playoff success as they do is not necessarily because every single playoff game that they've played in, they have been lighting up the scoreboard. You know, we saw Peyton Manning do that a bunch in the 2000s. He had some unbelievable playoff performances against the Kansas City Chiefs specifically early in his career. But then he would have those games where he threw 3 interceptions, 4 interceptions. You don't see that from Tom Brady. You don't see that from Patrick Mahomes. And you're hoping you don't see that from C.J. Stroud. So it starts there. And then from that point on, it's just don't do dumb stuff. The quarterback can't throw an interception and can't fumble. You can't do dumb stuff. Just don't do the dumb stuff. Don't be Zay Flowers. Don't drop passes that are open. Dalton Schultz had a couple of those. Like, you got to just not be dumb. And sounds really simple. Sounds almost condescending. But the reason that these teams have these long runs is because maybe the moment just doesn't resonate with them at all. Maybe they're like, yeah, it's just another game. Maybe eventually that's how you get to a point where you're never nervous. You're always calm, cool, and collected. Because these two teams, I mean, the Lions look like a team that were a Cinderella story that just hit reality really quickly. Like Cinderella going up against a Goliath in March Madness. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, these guys suck. Like, what are we doing here?
I was thinking of actual Cinderella. I was like, I don't think she fought anyone in the Cinderella.
No.
Yes. They were 100% a 13 seed that made the Elite Eight. And then they had to play North Carolina. And you're like,
right.
And they made some threes in the first half. And then and then it was over.
And then it's over. So the Lions did eventually look like that. And the Ravens just looked like a team that should know better by now. And the Lamar Jackson interception was terrible. The Zay Flowers saga of those 3 plays in a row with the, basically shoving and standing over and rolling the ball in a defender's head, randomly going after a Chiefs defender when Lamar was literally looking to throw the football to him. Wasn't a screen they were running. The Chief defender was like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
And Lamar, and the funny thing was, Flowers, you could tell, was so agitated, looked back to try to explain to him why he was trying to block him downfield instead of looking for a pass that came his way. And I don't know if these are all related, but I did feel like Flowers was trying to do too much, perhaps as a result of that. He did not need to dive ball first for that touchdown. He didn't need to do it. No. You never need to do it. That is my big pet peeve in football is players who are, let's be honest, me when you're doing that. Unless it's the end of the game and you must cross the plane. You are being me if you're sticking the football out like that. Because it's the most skilled league in the world. These defenders all know how to punch the football out. And if you just put it there, they have a chance to do it. And if you're holding it out, whether it bounces out the end zone and it becomes a touchback or it comes out of your hands and another player recovers, you should be punished violently for that dumbass move. Because it's a me. I'm not about the team. I'm all about myself. I want my glory move. It is, ultimately. And it's moments like that stack up, and it's why the Chiefs just keep on doing what they're doing, because they don't do that. When's the last time the Chiefs really screwed up in a game? Was it Kadarius Toney related? Probably.
Yeah, the non-Kadarius Toney related big game.
The play where he lined up offsides, where Travis Kelce threw him that ball and he screwed the whole thing up. Or D Ford offsides.
That was the first, because I was thinking playoff games at first, and the first one I thought of was 2018 D Ford lining up offside.
And guess what? That was their first year, like, going through what they go through. The growing pains happen, and hopefully for the Texans, all the pre-snap penalties was just a one-time thing. But I'm going to beat this into your head today, and just take the simple approach here. It is legitimately all about not screwing up and not doing really dumbass things that cost your team. And the two teams that did less of that advanced, and they've been advancing for a while. And I'm hoping that the Texans into next year don't have a cacophony, how about that, of errors that ultimately do them in. Because they might have had a chance against Baltimore if not for some of those mistakes. As time wore on, it did seem like it was Baltimore was clearly the better team. They do need to get more talent. Don't get it twisted. But they also, when they're going up against a team like Kansas City this year, and the good news for them this season with all the teams that they will play against, won't be playoff caliber, but it'll be similar to it. You play all those teams, the biggest thing that I want them to take away from every single game is, did we shoot ourselves in the foot for no reason at all? Because that's what the whole damn thing's all about.